Swaha. Om Triyambakam Yajamahe Sagandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityurmukshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triyambakam Yajamahe Sagandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityurmukshiyamamrita.
Good evening, dear friends. Namaste. Welcome to today's class on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Jai Guru and a happy Swami Moksha Day to all of us. And Swamiji is evermore with us. Having left his body, there were so many people who said that, Swamiji is more felt in our lives now. And his power is omnipresent now. And whoever calls him, he's always there to help. So let's tune into Swamiji today, his consciousness, and tune into his joy. Whenever we used to look at his face, he was always smiling and there was a light around him wherever he was. So let's just feel him present with us today, guiding us, leading us on towards the Guru's feet and towards the omnipresent God. Let us pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Bhagwan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, beloved Gurudev Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, friend and guide Swami Kriyananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, great sages Ved Vyas, Maharshi Patanjali, Adi Shankaracharya, humbly we bow at thy feet. Heavenly Father, destroy in us the wrong thought of ages that we are frail human beings. Awaken our hearts, awaken our souls, ignite the darkness within, tear the veil of silence, and fill our body temple with thy glory. Help us to realize that we are thy children, omnipresent as thou art. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us sing the hymn to Brahma to call on the Gurus. let's sing this beautiful chant by Paramahansa Yogananda to Divine Mother. Mother, I give you my soul call. You can't remain hidden anymore. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain den. Come out of my secret soul. Come out of my cave of silence. Mother, I give you my soul, you can't remain hidden anymore. Give my mother a she can't remain hidden anymore. She can't remain hidden anymore. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain den. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain den. Come out of my secret soul, Ma. Come out of my secret soul. Come out of my cave of silence. Come out of my cave of silence. Mother, I give you my soul, call. You can't remain hidden anymore. You can't remain hidden anymore. Give my mother a soul call. She can't remain hidden anymore. She can't remain hidden anymore. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain den. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain den. Come out of my secret soul, Ma. Come out of my secret soul. Come out of my cave of silence. Come out of my cave of silence. Mother, I give you my soul, call. You can't remain hidden anymore. You can't remain hidden anymore. Give my mother a soul call. She can't remain hidden anymore. She can't remain hidden anymore. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain den. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain den. Come out of my secret soul, Ma. Come out of my secret soul. Come out of In the silence of our soul, in the love of our heart, let us feel the tangible presence of Mother Divine, of our Heavenly Father, of our beloved Gurus. In your spiritual eye, visualize the picture of Swamiji smiling through his eyes, smiling face, shining, surrounded by light, bestowing his blessings on all of us. Mentally say thank you to Swamiji for creating this platform called Ananda, which has filled our lives with joy, which has given us the love of amazing Guru Bhais, and which has led us to our Guru. We thank you, Swamiji. Let us hear a few words by Swami Kriyananda on enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is the spirit of joy channeled through the power of the will. If we want to know joy, we must live always in the full expectation of it. Not even earthly happiness can come close to those who demand it glumly or who work for it with their eyes on the ground. To achieve happiness, one must work with happiness. To achieve divine joy, one must be keenly enthusiastic in everything one does. Never presume, never brush aside that subtle feeling of doubt which attends false emotional enthusiasm. Try always to let God's joy express itself through you. Thus, your enthusiasm will grow eventually to become His joy. Let us do the following affirmation. In everything I do, my enthusiasm soars to embrace infinity. In everything I do, my enthusiasm soars to embrace infinity. In everything I do, my enthusiasm soars to embrace infinity. Mentally pray, O perfect bliss, guide me that I express Thee through my every feeling. May my enthusiasm be a channel for Thy joy. Om, peace. Amen. Friends, we now come to our story section. And today I'll be reading out a story written by Paramahansa Yogananda. And this is especially true for devotees who are new on the path. And in fact, it's true for almost all devotees many a times. And he names this story, Madame Butterfly's Attempts at Concentration. He says, this story illustrates what happens when a person with an untrained mind sits down to concentrate. Though the principal in the story is called Madame Butterfly, male students just as often have such experiences in their unrewarding efforts at concentration. The scene is Madame Butterfly's living room. The time, the middle of a cold winter afternoon, Since all the housework is done and it's too dismal to go any place, our friend has some of that spare time she's always looking for in order to practice meditation. She sits down in a straight back chair. No sooner has her body touched the chair than she exclaims, "Oh my God, this seat is too hard. I should have a pillow." So she finds one the right size and sinks down upon it. Then Madam Butterfly discovers that the chair is squeaking. Transferring pillow and body to another chair, she notices a draft of wind and closes the window. Next, she develops a tendency to sneeze. But her handkerchief had dropped near the first chair. Her handkerchief reclaimed, Madam contentedly thinks, now for a delightful dip into the depths of concentration. A few moments pass, and her mind is just beginning to settle when the boiling radiator begins to bubble. In disgust, she jumps up and roughly chokes the radiator's voice. Once more, she settles herself, righteous indignation increasing the determination to meditate. Then, in the apartment next door, someone starts to play the piano, accompanied by laughter and loud talking. Now, Madam Butterfly is both mad and disgusted. She considers pounding on the wall, but after all, it is the middle of the afternoon, so the neighbors have all the right to play if they wish. She begins to listen and to think, that's really a good piano. Our friend then recalls other pianos she had heard. She remembers the pleasant days when she was a child and used to dance while her dear old grandmother played music, rustic airs popular in our own youth. She thinks of some of her grandmother's escapades as an attractive young ballet. And so on, until suddenly, Madam Butterfly remembers her original purpose of concentration and jerks herself from her sweet reveries. She tries to assume the saintly dignity of a veteran yogi, rebuking her body and mind for their restlessness. She makes a desperate effort to regather the battered fragments of her self-control. Her eyes have hardly closed again when a telephone crows out of with impudence, patience bearing pertinacity. I just love these words by Master. Anyway, she says, I will not answer it. But the impertinent bell continues. Madam Butterfly begins to doubt her wisdom. It might be an important call, she thinks. So she gets up and answers the phone only to find that someone has dialed the wrong number. This ordeal over, she musters up the courage to begin again. But now her head begins to nod. Her sense of shame at this is shoved aside by self-pity for her exhausted condition. But forcing herself to sit straight, Madam tries again. This effort is diverted by the clamorous ringing of the hoarse-voiced doorbell. She remains still for a few moments, but the patience-breaking jangle goes on until she begins to think again. It must be something important. Once at the door, however, Madam Butterfly assumes a galvanized smile as she greets three feminine acquaintances, all of whom have a master's degree in the art of gossiping. Behind the artificial flavor of a forced smile, our friend hides the stinging wasp of petulance and she thinks, oh, you pests, why couldn't you have stayed away and let me meditate? Happily oblivious to this, the three visitors enter and busy themselves raking and prodding in everyone else's dirt heaps, secure in the knowledge that for the moment there is a keep-off sign on their own. Madam Butterfly laughs pleasantly and 3 hours slip away before she has the relief of closing the door behind these inordinate gossips. Automatically, she resumes her attempts at concentration. But now her attention is mobbed by memories of leaky radiators, piano pounding, telephone bells, raucous doorbells, and gossipy tidbits. Guiltily, she halts this mental resume. What time is it anyway? Madame looks at her watch and with a resigned sigh rises and starts to the kitchen to get supper. The living room is empty again, and it might just as well have remained so all afternoon, so far as Madame Butterfly's efforts at concentration are concerned. Master ends this story by saying, the above experience is not an exaggeration. It is only a sample of what happens to most people when they attempt to concentrate. The average mind is like a water-soaked matchstick. Scratch it and it won't light. A concentrated mind is like a good dry match. Strike it with meditation and it is immediately aflame with burning love of God. Om, peace. Amen. Amazing story, isn't it? How Master knows each and every second, each and every moment of a devotee's life. The little hankerings, the little difficulties, the little challenges, the big challenges. Also, he knows everything that we go through. He knows all the restlessness of our mind and heart. And he has given us these techniques. So, dedicatedly, lovingly, are we just going to cry that there is restlessness in the mind and heart, or are we going to follow the techniques that the Guru has given us? So we must remember that these are always two sides available to us. There is this restlessness of the world, and the world, like a whirlpool, will keep calling upon you. It will keep calling its attention to you that this needs to be done, that needs to be done. And this will go on forever till you decide to put your foot down, till you decide and say, okay, this is my time with God, and I will not allow anybody, anything, or anyone in this world to interfere with it. And for that, if you have to take a seclusion from your day's work, maybe half a day, maybe an hour, or you have to fix a time, you have to tell everybody I'm not available on this time, you've got to do what you've got to do. But if we do not do this now, then even with after so many years, our life can still be like this. Okay, I have this appointment, I have this thing calling upon you, and I feel that all other duties are so important, I cannot leave them. But the truth is, my duty towards the self, towards God, is the highest duty, and it is through that power that I get the ability and the energy to be able to perform my worldly duties. So yes, my first duty is towards God, and I should remember that. And not only during my meditative times, but also during all the other moments in time, I should keep the attention, the needle of my attention turning towards God. The light of my mind should always be turning towards God, whatever I may be doing. And that way work will also become meditation. Okay, so now we come to the study of our scriptures. We are studying the third chapter called Vibhuti Pad of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And last time we did some very interesting sutras. I'll just brush up in a couple of minutes of what we did last time. And we started with Sutra 27. In that, Patanjali said that by samyam on the sun, knowledge of the entire solar system is acquired. And how Swamiji explained that anything can be understood by being at the center of it. Sutra 28, Samyam on the moon gives the knowledge of the stars. And we discussed how when the moon rotates and revolves, it moves through a series of 27 constellations or nakshatras, which also are called his wives in the Puranas. And how by focusing on the moon and its movement, we can know all the star positions which it goes through. Then Sutra 29, by performing samyam on the pole star, knowledge of the star's movements is obtained. Sutra 30, Samyam on the navel plexus gives knowledge of the body's constitution. Sutra 31, Samyam on the pit of the throat brings a cessation of hunger and thirst. Sutra number 32, Samyam on the Kurma Nadi, which is, we discussed, a subtle tortoise-shaped tube below the throat chakra and above the heart chakra. This results in motionlessness in meditative posture. And the last that we did last time was Sutra 33, Samyam on the light of at the crown of the head brings the vision of masters and spiritual adepts. So we now move on to the next sutra, and this is the whole chapter is dedicated to various powers. And since Patanjali just subtly mentions these powers may be obstacles, but yet they're all there for us to not consciously obtain them, or for us not to consciously go after them. But if such subtle powers to some degree do come our way on our journey to God, we may just acknowledge their presence and just let them be, and focus on the heart's love, and focus on the true self. Sutra number 34, Patanjali says, Pratibhatva Sarvam means all these can come without any samyam. So we have discussed many powers before the last class. We also discussed, samyam on friendship and samyam on light and all of that. So Patanjali says that all of these can come to man without any samyam, who has the power of pratibha or purity. So this is when a man has risen to a high state of purity, then he has that light and all things are apparent to him. Everything comes to him naturally without making samyam on anything. So this is a shortcut. After having labeled all the difficult types of concentration, now Patanjali says that all of that is available to a man who has a pure heart, and who has a still, because of his purity of heart, he will automatically attain the stillness of his mind and automatically will get these powers. So it's not that our line of masters spend their life on doing samyams on these different things so that they could have these powers. It's that they were avatars and they are self-realized to begin with, but it is because of their devotion to the infinite and their purity of their being that these powers automatically could be manifested in them at their will. Swami Kriyananda says, these insights come spontaneously also to one who has attained inner purity. The contemplation of these so-called powers should not be strange to devotees. So what he's just simply saying that these are normal things and these will happen to devotees to different degrees. They must experience at least glimpses of them in their own life. Besides, Patanjali warns that using one's spiritual or occult powers may develop pride. We should always feel that God accomplishes everything, even breathing through us. We accomplish nothing by ourselves. This thought is very, very important. Many a times we take credit for so many things, and we are happy to take credit for so many things. Oh, I am this great person, I have accomplished this, I have accomplished that, and I am a successful person, I've done this, I've done that. Now, a very simple thought is, can I take credit even for being alive in this moment? For the breath that is flowing in and out of me, for the heart that is beating on its own? Nothing of that is taking my permission, and I cannot take credit in this moment for being alive in this, through this body, in this world. If I cannot take credit for being able to breathe or to make my heart beat or to be alive in this moment, then what credit can I take for anything else that I do in this life? It's very, very delusive. The thought that I am the doer is a very delusive thought. and it must be transcended. We must understand, anytime you feel that you have that pride that, oh, I have accomplished so much, immediately transfer that, the sense of doership and therefore the sense of success, to God. And this helps so much, because there are many a times when there is failure, means you cannot meet your own expectations. Sometimes things don't go as they are. So when you have practiced giving the doership to God in good times, in successful times, then when times are bad, it is easy to transfer doership to God that time also, because it is the truth that He is the doer. So we must remember this thought all the time, and it's a very freeing thought. Don't think that, oh, what is the meaning of life if I cannot even say that I have done this and I have done that and I've accomplished this and that and I'm successful at this and that. No, when all of this goes, you are free. You say, wow, all I have to do is just live in this moment. All I have to do is to do my best in this moment, utilize the intelligence, the energy that I have been given to the best of my ability, and the rest is being done by God. Once you have that thought, you are free. And one of the definitions of a Paramahansa is that when the Hansa moves on water, when it glides over the water, it does not leave any mark behind. Means normally the trail which is left in water by a boat, a ship, or other ducks, a swan or a Hansa does not leave that trail. So it just lives in the moment. So we shouldn't be living in the failures and successes of the past, but living just one moment. And this is the truth. हमें एक पल में एक ही मोमेंट में जीना है. यही सांस है जो गुरु नानक देव जी भी ये कहते थे. एक बार उन्होंने अपने शिष्यों से पूछा कि कितने सांसों पर तुम्हारा कंट्रोल है. तो डिफरेंट लोगों ने डिफरेंट बातें बोली कि अच्छा कुछ सांसों पर तो है जो आखिरी मिनट होंगे वहां तब नहीं होगा, लेकिन अभी तो मेरा सांसों पर कंट्रोल है. किसी ने बोला 2 सांस, किसी ने बोला 1 सांस. तो गुरु नानक देव जी ने बोला कि नहीं, एक भी सांस पर आपका कंट्रोल नहीं है. जो सांस आपके अंदर जा चुकी है वो भी आपकी मर्जी से नहीं आई, और वो कब निकलेगी और फिर वो दोबारा आएगी या नहीं ये भी आपके बस में नहीं है. सो लेट अस रिमेंबर दिस ट्रूथ. जब तक ये बॉडी ब्रीथ कर रही है और हम इस शरीर के थ्रू ये जीवन जी रहे हैं, हमें इस जीवन को एक्सपीरियंस करना है और हमें इस जीवन को खुशहाल बनाना है. हमें कॉन्शियसली, वी आर जॉय इटसेल्फ, वी आर लाइट इटसेल्फ, वी आर लव इटसेल्फ. तो हमें केवल इतना करना है that now that I am living through this body in this world, let me spread the joy, let me make every moment happy for myself and others, let me just love others. क्योंकि पता नहीं है शरीर कितने और सांसों तक रुकेगा, तो मैं सांसें वेस्ट क्यों करूं अपना किसी से परेशान होने में या कंप्लेन करने में या एंग्री होने में या किसी के अगेंस्ट ग्रजेस होल्ड करने में, रिजेंटमेंट में. मैं क्यों ये सांसें वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ? ह्यूमन लाइफ इज वेरी प्रेशियस. आप चाहें तो इसी जीवन में मुक्त हैं आप, और ना चाहें तो आपकी मर्जी. और यदि इसी जीवन में मुक्त होना है तो हर पल का प्रयोग करना है, हर सांस का प्रयोग करना है. सबसे सिंपल तरीका है, हर सांस में से कहते हैं ना, सांसों की माला में प्रभु का नाम डाल दीजिए. तो सांस सांस सिमरो गोविंद, मन अंतर की उतरे चिंत. सारी चिंताएं, सभी परेशानियां, जितनी भी चीजें हमें लगता है हमें करनी है या मैं जिम्मेवार हूं, या ऑल द वरीज एंड फियर्स, इट हैज नो मीनिंग. क्योंकि हमें पता ही नहीं इस शरीर में कितनी सांसें हमारी और बची हैं. तो हर सांस में हमें केवल भगवान को याद करना है, और विद दैट गॉड गिवन पावर हमें अपना जो भी गॉड गिवन ड्यूटी है उसको निभाना है. और अगले पल क्या होगा, अगले दिन क्या होगा, अगले साल क्या होगा, पता नहीं. और पता करके करना भी क्या है, वो वैसे भी हमारे कंट्रोल में नहीं है. सो जस्ट लिव फ्री नाउ. डोंट थिंक दैट फ्रीडम इज अ फ्यूचर मोमेंट. डोंट थिंक इट विल कम टू यू सम अदर टाइम. Choose to live freely in this moment. Say, God, I am free. I am free because I have no desire. I don't want anything. I have you. I have this experience of this life. You have already given me everything. You have given me loving people around me. You have given me friends. You have given me these great teachings. I am enjoying every bit of it. So I thank you. And I am free because I don't want anything. And you are mine anyway. So be that frank child of God. कुछ चाहिए ही नहीं, सब कुछ तो दिया हुआ है ऑलरेडी। तो जब हम ये कह पाएंगे कि मेरी कोई डिजायर ही नहीं है, तो मैं उसी समय फ्री हूं, कुछ भी तो नहीं बचा फिर। पर उस प्योर डिजायरलेसनेस तक पहुंचने के लिए जब हम ट्रूली अपने दिल से कह पाए, जिसको हम प्योरिटी ऑफ हार्ट कह रहे हैं, ये जो सूत्र की बात हो रही है प्योरिटी ऑफ हार्ट की हो रही है। और प्योरिटी ऑफ हार्ट कब आता है? जब सारी लेसर डिजायर, सारी पेटी डिजायर्स चली जाती हैं, सिर्फ डिजायरलेस डिजायर फॉर गॉड रह जाती है। तो जब ये हो जाएगा तो अपने आप वो जो सारी सिद्धियां पहले मेंशन की गई हैं, जो सारी पावर्स, वो ऑटोमेटिकली मैनिफेस्ट हो जाती हैं। और हम उनको बारे में तो हम सोच भी नहीं रहे, हम तो चाह ही नहीं रहे, हम तो बस आनंद में जीना चाहते हैं। केवल यही हम चाहते हैं, यही हमारी डिजायरलेस डिजायर है। आनंद में जीना मतलब भगवान में जीना, मतलब अपने आत्मिक स्वरूप में जीना जो कि सच्चिदानंद है। इससे ज्यादा तो हम कुछ चाहते ही नहीं है। बाकी जो ड्रीम वर्ल्ड है वो अपने आप चलता रहेगा, इंक्लूडिंग योर चिल्ड्रन एंड योर रिलेटिव्स। If you are in joy right now, you are free. If you have no desire right now, you are free. No expectation, no desire, nothing to look forward to. Just be yourself, happy and loving in this moment. And you will gain all the powers that are mentioned by Patanjali. Okay, Sutra number 35. Hridaya Chit Samvit. So Swami Kriyananda, he explains this sutra as samyam on the heart brings an understanding of one's vrittis or inner tendencies. The deep calm feeling of the heart is the real tool that we can rely on. It is the seed of consciousness itself. Samyam on the heart brings to understanding of everything. So here, so concentration on the heart chakra is being talked about, and what is being talked about is the faculty of intuition. And Master has said that intuition is all-knowing. So always there is a conflict between intellect and intuition. The conflict exists only till when our intuition is not so well developed. So we rely on the intellect relies on the mind relies on the senses. So know that the intellect that we are using is relying on the data provided by the senses and the mind. और वो 5 senses ही हैं हमारी, और उनकी भी capacity limited है। तो सिर्फ लिमिटेड डेटा हमारी सेंसेस के थ्रू माइंड में आता है, इंटेलेक्ट उसको एनालाइज करता है और उतनी ही बात बता सकता है। और हमने फर्स्ट चैप्टर के इनिशियल 5-6 सूत्रस में पढ़ा था कि इन्फ्रेंस से आप गेन कर सकते हो नॉलेज, या सेंसेस के थ्रू डायरेक्ट परसेप्शन से कर सकते हो, या श्रुति मतलब शास्त्र पढ़ के कर सकते हो, बहुत तरीके हैं। इंटेलेक्ट से ही ये सब पॉसिबल है, लेकिन इंट्यूशन उससे हायर है। इंट्यूशन टेक्स यू टू द सेंटर ऑफ ऑल थिंग्स, इट टेक्स टू द सेंटर ऑफ योर ओन बीइंग, where you will just know everything, and you will know that even before the intellect can prove these things to be right, this is right, you will just know it in your heart. And intuition is not developed overnight. It takes long practice. It takes in your heart remembering that how you felt when you followed something on an intellectual basis and when you followed something on an intuitive basis. So धीरे धीरे जो हमारी मेमोरी है वो हमें बताती है कि जब हमें ऐसा फील हुआ था, जब हमने इंटेलेक्ट बेस्ड डिसीजन लिया था और हार्ट में ऐसी फीलिंग आई थी, तो उस सिचुएशन का आउटकम ऐसा हुआ था, whatever XYZ it was. And when I had this intuitive feeling about a situation, and then I followed my heart instincts, and then when I acted accordingly, then how did I feel and how was the outcome? So slowly, as we practice our meditation, as we start to calm the restlessness of the mind, our intuition starts to develop, also because we focus at the third eye center, which is the center of will, and also of to some extent of the intuition, and all the questions that we have to send out from the spiritual eye. As we keep doing that, the heart starts to open up, because all the energy from the heart is being brought up and being thrown out through the spiritual eye. So ये जो circuit है हमारा spiritual eye का और heart का, ये upper chakras पे बहुत amazing तरीके से currents flow करना शुरू कर देते हैं, and आपकी intuitive faculty बहुत बढ़ती रहती है. Slowly it keeps increasing, but eventually the feeling of the intuitive sense is supposed to be much greater than any knowledge that is gained through the intellect. and all the masters work through that. And पिछली कई पावर्स में से हमने देखा है कि मास्टर्स के पास ये पावर होती है कि वो बहुत रिमोट चीज को देख पाते हैं, किसी की थॉट प्रोसेसेस में एक स्ट्रिंग ऑफ थॉट पकड़ के किसी के माइंड में सारी थॉट्स पढ़ सकते हैं. They can feel the other person's consciousness. So all of that, can be done by, of course, Patanjali says purity of heart, and then by focusing on the heart chakra. The next sutra is sutra number 36, and it is a little long, and I will try to read it in Sanskrit first. So it says, Sattva Purushayo Atyant Asankarinayo Pratyaya Avishnivaha Bhogaha Parathatvat Swa Artho Samyamo Purush Jnanam. So, मीनिंग, इसमें आपने जो 2-3 शब्द पकड़े होंगे वो है सत्व, एक है पुरुष, एक है संयमत, और एक है भोगा, और अविशेष. सो ये कुछ ऐसे ऐसे वर्ड हैं जो हमें, क्योंकि हमने हिंदी पढ़ी हुई है सबने और कईयों ने कुछ कुछ संस्कृत पढ़ी हुई है, तो इसका कुछ कुछ अर्थ हमें मालूम है. बट लेट्स सी व्हाट इट मीन्स इन टोटलिटी. सत्व एंड पुरुषा आर एक्सट्रीमली डिस्टिंक्ट. सो ये बात हमें पहले समझनी है, इस लाइन को समझते हैं. सत्व इज अ गुना. सो वी सेड दैट ऑल क्रिएशन, व्हेन मैनिफेस्टेशन हैपेंस एंड देयर इज वाइब्रेटरी क्रिएशन, सो 3 गुनास में डिवाइड हो जाती है, 3 क्वालिटीज हैं, एक है सत्व, एक है रजस, एक है तमस. तो यहाँ पे ये क्लियर कह रहे हैं, जो सेंट्स होते हैं उनकी जो आउटवर्ड क्वालिटीज होती हैं वो सात्विक होती हैं, यानी कि वो सात्विक भोजन करते हैं, उनके विचार सात्विक होती हैं, उनकी भावनाएं सात्विक होती हैं, उनके एक्शन सात्विक होते हैं, मतलब प्योर होते हैं. लेकिन इस सूत्र में कहा गया है कि सत्व जो है वो पुरुषा से फर्क होता है, यानी कि जो आत्मन है, पुरुषा मीन्स द लार्जर सेल्फ, द आत्मन. The Atman is different from Sattva. Sattva is the best of the gunas, but it is still part of that created universe. And the Purusha or the Atman or the self is beyond creation. It is that absolute stillness, that pure consciousness or pure awareness that we truly are. And we must distinguish that the qualities of creation, including sattva, are different from who we truly are, the Purusha or the Atman or the self. On account of non-difference of the awareness of both, there is objective or subjective experience. So, इसमें ये कह रहे हैं कि क्योंकि people cannot distinguish between Purusha and Sattva, that is why all the experiences they are having, they kind of say that, okay, I, the body, is having such and such experience. I, the personality, is going through such and such difficult experience in my life, and so and so. So ऐसे वो, क्योंकि वो separate नहीं कर पाते, ये discrimination अभी लोगों में नहीं है to see the difference between the self and the non-self. So Sattva is non-self and self is the Atman. By samyam on the subjective awareness, means on the witness consciousness, apart from the objective awareness, which is the seen, the knowledge of Purusha is obtained. So again, यहाँ पे हमने second chapter में दृष्टा और दृश्य की बात की थी, जिसमें हमने कहा था कि हमें differentiate करना है कि सीयर कौन है और सीन क्या है. सो ये जितना भी वर्ल्ड हमारे अराउंड है, ये ऑब्जेक्टिव रियलिटी है, और ये सीन वर्ल्ड है, ये है दृश्य. और हम जो एक्चुअल में हम देख रहे हैं, हम सीयर हैं, हम दृष्टा हैं, विटनेस कॉन्शियसनेस है. हम इस ब्रेन को, इन आईज को और ये सारे नर्वस मैकेनिज्म को यूज कर रहे हैं इस वर्ल्ड के ऑब्जेक्टिव एक्सपीरियंस को प्राप्त करने के लिए. But actually we are that infinite reality of absoluteness which is living through this bodily instrument. And similarly we talked in the same tone about what is said in the Bhagavad Gita. In that Krishna says to Arjuna that you must differentiate between the Kshetra and the Kshetragya. So Kshetra is the field of action. ये जितना भी एक्शन हो रहा है, कर्म हो रहा है, हमारे आसपास दुनिया मूव कर रही है, ये क्षेत्र है. और क्षेत्रज्ञ कौन है? क्षेत्रज्ञ वो है जो ज्ञाता है इस क्षेत्र का, यानी कि जो नोअर है इस फील्ड का. और वो नोअर कौन है? वो नोअर है हमारा आत्मिक सेल्फ, जो हम ट्रू एसेंस में है, जो अगेन इस बॉडी इंस्ट्रूमेंट के थ्रू इस दुनिया में जी रहे हैं हम हैं इन्फिनिट इन अ सेंस, लेकिन हम क्योंकि इस शरीर को धारण करे हुए हैं, और ये ईगो की एक क्वालिटी है जो कि आपको लिमिटेड समझने लगती है, आपको लगने लगता है आप ये लिमिटेड बॉडी फॉर्म हो, ये पर्सनालिटी हो। तो ये डिल्यूसिव माया है जिससे जो इन्फिनिट सोल है वो ईगो बन जाता है, और वो ईगो से अपने आप को लिमिटेशंस के अंदर धारण कर लेता है, और फिर वो डिल्यूजन में जीता रहता है, और ऐसे में फिर सफर करता है वो, क्योंकि वो इन्फिनिट है और वो लिमिटेशंस में बहुत ज्यादा टाइम नहीं जी सकता, ऑल्दो मिलियंस ऑफ लाइफ टाइम्स हो जाता है, बट एक टाइम आता है जब उसको ये रियलाइज होता है दैट इवन द बेस्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ is not, there must be something higher than this, that there must be a happiness which is beyond this. And that time when he starts to seek the truth, that times the guru appears in his life, and through his teachings and through the power of his techniques and grace, the guru starts to show the mirror to the devotee and disciple and tells him who he really is. So remember, even in the Bhagavad Gita, it is only when Arjuna had so many questions did Krishna start to answer these questions. कृष्ण के पास सारा ज्ञान हमेशा से था, लेकिन जब तक अर्जुन ने वो प्रश्न नहीं पूछे तब तक कृष्ण ने कोई उत्तर, ये एनलाइटनमेंट दी ही नहीं। तो हम भी जब उस बैटलफील्ड पे उतरते हैं, जब हमारी लाइफ एक डेली बैटल बन जाती है और हम ये जानना चाहते हैं कि हम लड़ी क्यों रहे हैं इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस, और हमारे दुश्मन कौन है, तो वो कुरुक्षेत्र की तरह हम ये पूरा एक तो ज्ञान ये जानना चाहते हैं कि सब क्या हो रहा है और क्यों हो रहा है, और ये भी जानना चाहते हैं कि हमें करना क्या चाहिए। तो जब हम सीकर बन जाते हैं, हम सत्य जानना चाहते हैं और हमारे मन में प्रश्न उठते हैं, हु एम आई, व्हाट इज ऑल दिस, और हम प्रेम का आभास करना चाहते हैं, तो हम भगवान से, यानी कि एक इन्फिनिट यूनिवर्स से हमारे मन में प्रश्न उठते हैं, और उन प्रश्नों के जवाब स्वरूप हमें पहले किताबें मिलती हैं और फिर उसके बाद हमें गुरु मिल जाते हैं, और फिर हमारी लाइफ लाइट से में चेंज होती रहती है। वी स्टार्ट टू टर्न टुवर्ड्स द लाइट, एंड दैट लाइट फिल्स अस with each passing day, it fills us more and more, and when we have that light in us, life becomes a joy. With God, life is a nest of fun. Without God, life is anything but fun. So this is how a jnana yogi is always being able to differentiate between purusha and sattva. So we are the seer, we are the witness, we are the kshetragya. Let us not limit ourselves with the kshetra or with the objective reality of the world. We are the subject itself. Swami Kriyananda says, the sattvic intellect and the soul are completely different. Samyam on the distinctions between them gives soul understanding. So the knowledge of the Purusha is gained by concentrating and meditating upon the differences between the pure Atman and the sattvic intellect. Even the clearest intellect cannot understand the true nature of the soul, for the intellect depends on distinctions, whereas the soul is beyond all distinctions. Samyam on this difference intuitively bestows an understanding of the soul. So कृष्ण ने हमें कहा है हम एक आत्मन है, और गुरु कृष्ण ने हमारे पास गुरु भेजे हैं जो ये हमें हेल्प करेंगे जानने में कि हम एक आत्मन है, but the homework resides with us. ये अपने आप में ये इसका साक्षात्कार करना कि हम एक आत्मन है, और हम ये सोल सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन इसी को तो कहते हैं, इसका होमवर्क हमें ही करना है। रास्ता है, लाइट भी है, रास्ता भी है, मार्ग है, गोल भी है, अब उस पर चलना तो हमें है। तो ये कार्य होमवर्क हमें सेल्फ एफर्ट डालना ही पड़ेगा, और जितना जल्दी डालेंगे, जितना अनसीजिंग होगा ये एफर्ट, उतना ही जल्दी हम अपने गोल तक पहुंच जाएंगे। सूत्र नंबर 37, ततः प्रतिभा शनना वेदना दर्शा अश्वदा वर्त जयन्ते, meaning from that arises the knowledge of hearing, touching, seeing, tasting and smelling belonging to the pratibha, means a higher degree of perfection and transcendental. So he's saying first you have to find the difference between purusha and sattva, and then what happens? Swami Kriyananda says, from this understanding arises supra-physical perception, which is subtle hearing, touch, seeing, tasting, and smelling. So all the, the powers which are related to the senses. So there is a hypersensual state as well. In fact, we know that our astral bodies continue to have the sensual feeling, means the astral bodies can hear, and they have, the only difference is that it doesn't need physical ear to hear, it doesn't need the physical eyes to see, but that perception is present. But even when we are in this body and we have learned to meditate on the self, on the difference between the self and the qualities of this universe, then we will develop all these powers of a hypersensual nature. In the stanza after this, so but Swamiji is just telling you in advance of what is coming next. So in the stanza after this, Patanjali advises against the use of these or any miraculous seeming powers. To display an ability, for example, to know what has gone on in your neighbor's home, to tell him what a delicious meal his wife served him the evening before, when you yourself were absent. Such abilities are perfectly real, but they are an intrusion to your neighbor's life and serve no purpose at all except to make him marvel at your powers of clairvoyance. They are food for your ego. In other words, can only draw yet another veil of ignorance across the mirror of your self-esteem. So, ये जो example Swami ji ने बताया है, my father-in-law, he narrated such an incident to me once, and long time ago, he said he and his friend had gone to somewhere, Haridwar or somewhere near that, and they met a sadhu. And his friend, my father-in-law's friend, was very interested in all these miraculous powers and astrological things, what is going to happen to know, and so on. So a sadhu gently called him, and he said, do you want to know what your wife is doing at home right now? And the person, since he was an enthusiast, a curious person, he said yes. And the sadhu just closed his eyes, and then in a moment he came back to his in the common awakened state, and he said, oh, your wife is in the kitchen, she's preparing the sabji or bhindi ki sabji she's making, and she's wearing a sari which is so and so color, and such relative has visited your house, and so on. So in less than a minute he narrated all this. So the person, he heard, and then after some time, when he was free, he came out from the sadhu's presence. He called his wife and to corroborate exactly what the sadhu had told him. Okay, so these things happen. Master in autobiography said that in India, spiritual skyscrapers are available by the wayside. So हम जानते नहीं हैं, लेकिन बहुत लोगों के पास जो है बहुत अनोखी पावर्स हैं, लेकिन ये पावर्स में हमें फंसना नहीं है, ना हमें इनकी डिजायर रखनी है और ना ही इनमें हमें फंसना है, क्योंकि ये एक वेल है. जब जैसे ही हमें लगने लगा, ओ माय गॉड, आई कैन सी to remote places and distant, I can hear voices, I can listen to anybody talking to each other, and I can do whatever I want. So जब ये, क्योंकि उससे प्रॉब्लम क्या होगी, आईनेस बढ़ जाएगी कि मैं ये कर सकता हूँ, मेरे में ये पावर है. सो ये एक और वेल आ जाएगी, इसके लिए हमें बिल्कुल ही अगेंस्ट है. ये एक काइंड ऑफ दूसरी बोट में बैठ जाना है. हम एक बार में एक ही दिशा में जा सकते हैं, या सोलवर्ड या ईगो वर्ड. तो जैसे ये पावर्स आती हैं और उसमें हम फंस जाते हैं, तो हम ईगो की तरफ जाने लगते हैं, एनर्जी डिसेंड होने लगती है. और जब हम फ्री रहते हैं, हाँ ये पावर्स हैं. People like Telanga Swami, people like Totapuri Maharaj, who lived more than almost 300 years they lived, they had all kinds of powers. But then this was not the thing that they focused on. Telanga Swami was also an Advaitin, and also he talked about bhakti. And Totapuri Maharaj was a pure Advaitin. He would talk about Vedanta in and out. He would say, just focus on the self. He had all the powers, all the siddhis that are available to sadhus. So we must be very, very careful about all these things. Yes, a knowledge of them is good, but a pride in them and useless involvement in them is completely prohibited if we want God realization in this life. Sutra number 38. Te samadhau upasarg vyuttan siddhaya. Swami Vivekananda says on this, these are obstacles to samadhi, but they are powers in the worldly state. So एक worldly person के लिए ये सारी powers हैं, but एक योगी ये समझ ले कि ये सारी powers एक obstacle हैं to samadhi. So this is in red, and underlined in red, we should remember this, कि ये हमारे मार्ग में बाधाओं की तरह आ सकती हैं. All the enjoyments and experiences of the world come by the junction of the Purusha and the mind. So when the Atman or the Purusha lives through the body and the mind complex, then it enjoys this world. If he wants to make samyam on this, that there are two things separate from each other, nature and soul, he gets the knowledge of Purusha. ये तो हमने last to last sutra में पढ़ा था. From that arises discrimination. From discrimination, he develops the light of supreme genius. These powers, however, are obstructions to the attainment of the highest goal, the knowledge of the pure self, and they are obstruction to the attainment of complete freedom. These are, as it were, to be met in the way, and if the yogi rejects them, he attains the highest. If he is tempted to acquire these, his further progress is barred. Swami Kriyananda says, the supraphysical powers are obstacles to the attainment of samadhi, for they take the mind outward. Attachment to powers can lead one to never-ending involvement in them and ego affirmation, thus preventing further soul evolution and freedom. Okay, so coming to the last sutra for today, and Patanjali says, Bandh Karan Shaithilya Prashar Samvedvat Chachittasya Par Sharir Aveshah. This is a very interesting sutra. Swami Vivekananda says, when the cause of bondage has become loosened, the yogi, by his knowledge of manifestation through the organs, enters another body. So let's read this first. The yogi can enter a dead body and make it get up and move, even while he himself is working in another body. Or he can enter a living body and hold that man's mind and organs in check, and for the time being act through the body of that man. That is done by the yogi coming to his discrimination of Purusha and nature. So the yogi knows that he is not this body. He is the Purusha. He is separate from it. So he's completely in knowledge of that. If he wants to enter another's body, he makes a samyam on that body and enters it, because not only is his soul omnipresent, but his mind also is part of the universal mind. So he knows that his mind is not restricted to this bodily instrument. It is universal. It's a cosmic mind. Now, in the present state, it can only work through the nerve currents of this body. So he's talking about a general person, that you can work only through the nerve currents of one body. But when the yogi has loosened himself from these nerve currents, he will be able to work through other things and other bodies. So this is so clear. ये तभी आपको पता चलेगा. अगर आपको यही लगता रहेगा कि मैं ही ये शरीर हूं, तो आप अपने आप को इसे सेपरेट कैसे करोगे? जब मेडिटेशन के थ्रू और ज्ञान के थ्रू और ग्रेस के थ्रू ये हम जानने लगते हैं कि आई एम सेपरेट फ्रॉम दिस बॉडी, तब जाके ये सारी बातें रेलिवेंट हो पाती हैं. तभी हम अपने आप को इस नर्व चैनल से, इस ब्लड सर्कुलेशन से, इससे हम अलग कर सकते हैं. We know that we exist beyond this bodily instrument, more than this personality. We are that being. Swami Kriyananda ji says, by loosening karmic bondage to the body and by mental identification with a new one, one can enter into the body of another. My Guru Paramahansa Yogananda ji displayed this power constantly, Swamiji says. He went into the bodies of each of his disciples every day. He said once, It can be a terrible experience if that person is suffering in delusion. Once he said to someone, "You have a sour taste in your mouth, haven't you?" "How did you know?" that person inquired. He answered, "Because I am as much in your body as I am in my own." People sometimes challenged him on the subject of sexual activity. "How can you talk against it? You've never experienced it," they would say. He answered, "But I have been in the bodies of those who have experienced it, and I know from experience that compared to divine bliss, the pleasure of sex is just nothing." Guruji told the disciples a fascinating story, which he said happened, it was true to him. Means he had, I don't know if he had heard it or he had directly experienced it. A young man died and his body was on the funeral pyre awaiting cremation, when an old yogi came out of the jungle and cried, "Stop, I need that young body." At that moment, he fell to the ground and the young man leapt off the pyre, ran off into the jungle. So the body of the old haggard, it dropped there, and the soul, it entered, the soul, of course, with the astral and the causal casing, it entered the young body which was on the pyre and made it alive, and it ran into the jungle. The young man's relatives were left with the task of cremating the corpse of a complete stranger. Few people can manifest such a power, but every devotee can and should, through empathy and compassion, be sensitive to the needs of others, to their physical sufferings and their emotional hungers. So, means Swamiji is saying, to some extent, we can feel the pains and joys of others. So, in a sense, we are already more than this body. We are sensitive to their well-being or their difficulties. So, we are already in a state of expansion. We can explore more on this. And I remember reading Guruji's teachings. He said that you do not think that birth, rebirth, and all of this possible because you have not practiced leaving one body and getting into the other. He just said it casually. So just because you have not practiced this fact that you can leave one body and get into the other, that is why you have no experience of it, and therefore you think it is not true. But it is, since we are the soul, we are the Kshetragya, we are the seer, we are the witness consciousness, we are separate from this body-mind instrument. The moment we realize that from then on, all of this becomes at least a potential scientific possibility. So our first job then remains that we realize that in a sense, we are more than this bodily instrument. A master said your body should thank you that you are living through it. So this is matter. Jad chetan granthi. ये कहा जाता है human being है जड़ और चेतन की ग्रंथि. Jad is matter, the body, and chetan is consciousness, the aliveness, the awareness. We are that knot, and eventually we have to realize that we are pure consciousness, just temporarily living through this body. And by the grace of the master and the sincere following of his teachings and techniques, we can actually experience this truth. We will know that we are the Atman and that Atman is ever free. With that thought, let us share the power of these teachings with the whole world, with souls everywhere, to the infinite universe. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Question: